Welcome to the Opinionation Podcast, where free speech, opinions, and original thought still matter in America.
As usual, it is I, once again, King Daddy, back at you to inform, enlighten, and hopefully educate you to the wiles of the world that are trying to destroy the very fabric of what you think you believe. You know, I've always thought that my mind was pretty impermeable. I've always thought that I had my own set in my ways, die-hard, solid opinions, that those things could not be changed. But then I got to thinking, can they really not be changed? Because I watch television just like everybody else. I try to limit myself now with non-commercial types of television, such as Netflix, YouTube, some various things. Although you do have to be careful there. But let's look for a second at television commercials in general. Back in the day, and they still do it somewhat, but back in the day, I would sit there when I was the young king boy, and I would watch cartoons on Saturday morning, and I would see all these colorful boxes of pictures and characters. They had Tony the Tiger and the Pelican. I can't even remember what cereal that was because I didn't eat it. The Snap Crackle Pop dudes. Everybody had like a little character that they used. And they used that to entice your children to want to beg you to buy them that cereal. They didn't care if it was healthy. They didn't care how much sugar it had in it. They didn't need to list the ingredients of the cereal. Nowadays they tell you that, buy this for your kids because it has no high fructose corn syrup. Back then, they told you to buy it because Tony the Tiger said it was great. But kids would beg their parents for that cereal, and the parents would buy it just to shut their kids up. They didn't read labels. They didn't do the things like they do now. They just bought the sugar-packed rolls of mush, poured milk on it, fed it to their kids, and asked no questions. And now you wonder why my generation of people is dying with diabetes and heart disease, but that's a different story for another time. But here's what I'm trying to tell you. It is very easy for a person to become indoctrinated by the words that are spoken by somebody else. It is very easy for a person to become indoctrinated by the pictures that they view on a television screen or a billboard or that play prior to a movie comes out. I mean, think about this. I have gone to movies where they showed me a 30-second clip of a bunch of people fighting and beating the shit out of each other and blowing stuff up. And I have wanted to see that movie and then get there and realize that the entire best part of the movie was the clip. The rest of the movie was a piece of shit. But I allowed that clip to poison my mind and make me want to go see a movie that I probably would not have otherwise gone to see. But I saw it anyway, nothing I could do about it. I wasted a few bucks on a movie ticket, but I did get to enjoy some popcorn and drink a drink, which was perfectly fine. But still, that is a small example of what takes place. So now let's look more at mainstream America and see what they are doing to us now. And I alluded to this in an earlier podcast, which I sometimes do reflect back in an attempt to bring out some points that I maybe didn't touch on as much as I would have liked to because the subject matter was different. But I'm going to bring up this point again and tell this story. I was at my mother-in-law's one day. She brought out a magazine from the back, and she could not believe that the picture in the magazine And for those of you who heard me tell this story, I apologize, but it is kind of funny. Because, my mother-in-law is like almost an 80-year-old woman, and this was just something that she's not used to looking at. So she brings this magazine up there. I believe it was a Home and Garden. And she opens up this picture in the middle of the Home and Garden magazine, and it was an ad for a furniture store, and it was a picture of a living room suite with this big bulky couch. And on the bulky couch was a man who was sitting on the couch, and another man who was lying on the couch who had his head in the lap of the seated man. In today's America, nobody seems to have a problem with that because they have created an environment through advertising and other methods that is normal behavior, when in fact it really is not. I mean, even though homosexuality is more accepting than it ever was, it is still not a norm in this country. There are things that we do in this country that are still considered irregularities or abnormalities, but the people, I guess, who are supposedly in charge of our mindset, the mental police, I guess if you want to call them that, they want to take all of us and they want to normalize the things that we grew up believing should not be normalized. When I was a young man, I knew that there were homosexuals. I knew that there were. There was a guy who lived up the street from my grandmother who was a supposed bachelor/homosexual, and the family used to talk about him and they would whisper about him, but you couldn't really say anything or call him out. You just needed to, you just needed to know that this man was a homosexual and that he was odd, and that we just kind of left that area alone. We didn't go up there and play. We didn't go in his yard. We didn't go around him unless our parents were there. I mean, that's just the way life was. I can also remember watching Seinfeld in the 90s, and one of my absolute favorite episodes of Seinfeld was that every time they would talk about a homosexual person that was in this episode, they would follow it up by saying, not that there's anything wrong with that. So you could see in the 90s that there was coming a twist where they were starting to normalize more and more. The first time that I ever saw a mixed race couple in my life with my eyes was on the Jeffersons. The people who lived upstairs from the Jeffersons, and I can't remember their name, but they were a mixed couple who had a mixed race daughter. And that was very early on normalizing something that you very seldom did not see. I remember hearing years ago about Elizabeth Montgomery was supposedly married to the black guy from the Mod Squad. And that was just, you just didn't do that. But I'd never actually witnessed it myself until the Jeffersons came on. I watched Archie Bunker, just like most people of my generation did. And I watched I'm going to call it a friendship, but a very odd friendship that had developed between Archie and Edith and George and Wheezy. But it was a very strained friendship because of the racial differences. But then when the Jeffersons got their own show and moved into the high-rise apartment building, when Jefferson Cleaners became, more successful than what it had been before, and George and Wheezy had money, they lived in the apartment building and they had the mixed race couple who lived upstairs. But until that took place, I had no idea that really existed in real life other than on television or something that you would read about in a tabloid magazine. But now I was watching, I can't remember what grocery store it was. It was either Food Lion or Publix or one of those. But most of their ads now reflect a mixed race couple of some sort in almost every ad. You can't watch an ad where they have not implanted a mixed race couple. And I'm kind of like Seinfeld. I'm not going to sit here and say as if there's anything wrong with that. Because, I don't know. I'm not a mixed race couple kind of guy. But I do know people who are in mixed relationships that are very successful. And I commend them for the longevity and the goodness, the genuine goodness of their relationship. So I don't really have any qualms with it. But I just noticed the push to normalize things that used to not be normal. Now, I don't know whether these are good things or bad things. I have my opinion that some are good, some are bad. Because there's not always a good thing or a bad thing about every situation, because each situation is different. But speaking of the word different, to me, coming from where I come from and the generation that I grew up in, it is a little odd. It's very rare, say in the 70s and the 80s, to really see these things, especially here in North Carolina. So being a part of the not so diverse Southern culture, those were just things that were frowned upon as I was growing up. I listened to older people of my time would see things like that and they would just outright just blast it because they didn't like it. They didn't think it was right. They didn't want to see it. And I'm not going to sit here today on the program and condemn those behaviors because, like I said, I've never been involved in an interracial relationship or a homosexual relationship to really have a great deal of understanding as to why they do it or what it's like. I don't know. Another thing that really, really floors me, and this one really floors me, the homosexuals and the mixed race couples, they don't floor me that bad. I've kind of, I guess, gotten used to seeing it. Again, I don't have an opinion because I've never been there. But here's one that I do have an opinion about, and that is the people who claim to identify as another gender. I just don't understand that. I understand a man being what they used to call back in the day a sissy man, or a girl being more tomboyish than some people would probably like. And I've seen that. I've seen guys who liked what they would consider girlish things, which, by the way, it is inappropriate now, according to some people, to gender specify what is for men and what is for women, what is for boys and what is for girls. So if you want to send me email telling me that, I'm just a horrible piece of shit for bringing out those differences, you can email me at opinionation84@gmail.com, and I will do my best to answer every one. I get emails every week, both good and bad, and I do try to answer them all. You can curse me, I don't care. You can call me names, I don't care. That this is what this entire podcast is about exploring our freedom of speech. And you have the right to say back to me what you like or do not like that I say, just as much as I have the right to come on here in front of this microphone and say the things that I say. So, with that being said, I don't understand transgender people. I do understand the concept of, being sissy-ish or being tomboyish or whatever, but I just don't understand that. One of the weirdest things that I've ever seen in public, and I've got a couple of other weird ones I'm going to talk about here in a second, but this is my number one weirdism that I've ever seen in my life. That is a pretty girl who wants to go out and date another girl, but the girl that she dates wears baggy clothes and has a really short haircut and has a ball cap on her head. You know, if you're going to do that, just get yourself a dude and don't have regular sex with them. I mean, do you really? If you like girls, why can't you go out and get a girl? I don't understand the concept of going out and trying to find a girl that looks like a boy. That just blows my fucking mind to no end. But another thing that blows my mind is these people who want to be transgender. They want to be called by all these different transgender pronouns. They want to dress in the opposite people's, here's the deal. If you are a dude and you want to wear dresses and you want to wear heels and you want to shave your legs and you want to have boobs, go to the doctor and get a surgery and fix your shit so that you can be a woman. But do not get on television, as I saw yesterday, and scream in the reporters' microphones that you demand for your insurance company on your job to pay for these surgeries. The insurance companies are bogged down enough having to pay for real disease that they can barely keep up with. They're trying to pay for cancer and heart and different types of surgeries for people that have actual needs for surgery. They don't have time to be wasting money so that my premiums go up so that you can have your dick cut off or that you can have a penis placed where your vagina used to be. That is not what my insurance company needs to be doing with our premium money. I understand that you believe that you should have rights, and I understand that everybody believes that they should have rights, but there are some things that just aren't a right because they're just not right. So I can't expect for my insurance company to start doling out large amounts of money for you to have these gender-changing surgeries when they can't even keep up with the demand for the high volume of surgeries that they have for real disease. And that's all I'm going to go there. But that was a rant that I had yesterday when I was watching the news because I saw the transgender woman on television getting ready to sue, and I can't even remember where the city was now, getting ready to sue the city that she worked for because they didn't offer her all the benefits that she needed as a transgender woman. She was a dude in a dress standing on the courthouse steps asking for insurance money to pay for shit that they shouldn't be paying for, and that's pretty much the bottom line. So I never have understood that. I never have understood how employers, and I understand that there's discrimination laws. You can't tell somebody they can't have a job because they're white, or you can't have a job because they're black, and you can't not give somebody a job because they're gay. But I guarantee you that if the black person or the white person or the gay person were to get caught in the bathroom or in the back room of that said employer having intercourse with whatever gender of person they wanted to have intercourse with, that they would not keep that job. So here's what I don't understand about the transgenders and the whole job thing. They want to go to work. They want to dress up in the gender of their choosing's clothing style. How do they have a job? You're not representing yourself as a person. You're representing yourself as a gender. How does that thing that works at Starbucks stand in the window of the Starbucks with the pink hair and the women's clothing, but yet is still a man or a young boy or whatever it is, and keep their job. Because they are absolutely not representing their employer. They're not representing humanity. They are pulling a stunt to represent that gender that they equate with. To me, that's different than having a right. You have the right to identify with whatever gender you want to identify as. You have the right to be as gay as you want to be. You have the right to date as many people outside of your race that you want to date. But where it draws the line is you don't have the right to force other people to identify and like and respect and play party to those things that you feel you want to do. Not everybody wants to go there. Not everybody wants to accept you. Not everybody wants to be handed their coffee out the window by a dude with pink hair and women's clothing and boobs. I don't. I'll be the first one to sit here and tell you on the public airways that I am uncomfortable with that. I will never be comfortable with that. As fairly normalized as homosexuality is in today's world now, I would never be able to find myself comfortable enough for my wife and I, who is a woman, by the way, she is my wife, a female, I would not be comfortable enough to go out to dinner with a gay couple. I would not be comfortable going out in public and eating dinner with a transgender couple. However, I don't really have a problem going out to dinner with a mixed race couple because here's the deal. They're both human beings. They're both the same species. They're of opposite sex. They have the right to do what they want to do. But I don't feel like that I should have to succumb to the acceptance of something that my personal belief system feels is a perversion. Shouldn't have to do it. You shouldn't have to do it. As an American citizen who has the rights to disapprove of anything that you want to disapprove of, you do not have to sit back and take this type of behavior. You do not have to buy the products from the companies who want to use the gay couples in their advertising. And I'm not sitting here telling you not to. If you like to use their products, use their products. But I'm just saying, as an American, you have the right to your own opinion. You have the right to your own feelings about everything. And as long as you're not physically harming another human being, you have the right to disapprove and dislike any of those things that you don't like. You have that right to do it. You do not have to be mind fucked by the establishment. You do not have to be mind fucked by the government. You do not have to be threatened with lawsuit because you refuse to believe what another person chooses to believe. You don't have to do it. I mean, if that were the case, then the atheists would be suing Christians and the Christians would be suing atheists. The Buddhists would be suing Christians. The Hare Krishnas would be suing Jews. I mean, because we do live in a world where it is possible to have differences without attacking people with these differences and still not like them. I don't like church. I don't want to go to church. I don't want people coming up to me telling me about the Lord and flinging their Bible in my face. I have the right not to like that. So guess what? I don't go to church. I have the right not to feel comfortable around gay people. So guess what? I don't go around gay people. I don't feel comfortable with transgenders. So if I can possibly help it, I don't go around them. I don't purposely go out and say, hey, I'm going to go find me a transgender friend. I don't want one. I'm sure there are some transgenders out there that are really nice people. And I'm sure that they are some really good people. But I just don't roll like that, nor do I want to. I don't need to. I have no reason to be around that. But I also don't have the right to outright abuse or hate or demean them in any way. But I have the right, the absolute right, not to like it. And let's go back to the church thing for a minute. Churches are literally fighting each other and breaking up denominations of churches because one church will allow homosexuals, one church will allow a homosexual to be a minister. You know, fine and dandy. Why can't each church just be an entity of its own? I don't believe, I know a little bit about the Bible. I'm not one of those Bible-believing worshipy people, but I know enough about the Bible that it does condemn homosexuality. But if you want to have a church where you're accepting of homosexuals or you're accepting of transgenders and you want to have them in your church, then have them in your church. But don't argue with the church down the street that does not want them there, and the church down the street don't need to argue with you. Do your own thing. Again, it's okay in America to do your own thing. It's okay in America to be your own person. It's okay in America to have an individual thought. You know, people don't know how to think anymore. People like to be led. But I am one of these people that believe that you can lead a horse to water, speaking of myself, but you can't make me drink. This is King Daddy saying have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week, and I will be back with you soon. Thank you very much.